As we've reported, President Trump signed a long-awaited executive order on religious liberty Thursday. The directive, which was announced at the National Day of Prayer ceremony, will weaken a 1954 law that prevents churches and other non-profit religious groups from engaging in political campaigns. But it's what isn't written in the bill that is causing some anxiety among Americans. Some critics of the order say it leaves the door open for discrimination against members of the LGBTQ community. Roddy Flynn, executive director of the LGBT Equality Caucus, said, quote, "This administration has attacked the rights of transgender students and programs assisting LGBT elders." He went on to say, "We cannot trust that this order will be narrowly utilized to not directly harm our community. We will be watching." Joining us from Washington is Gregory Angelo. He is the president of Log Cabin Republicans, the nation's original and largest organization representing gay and conservatives, along with their allies. So, Gregory, leading up to the signing of the executive order, there was a lot of speculation it would be explicitly anti-LGBTQ because of a leaked draft in February. But what we see is it isn't the case. So what's your reaction to the president's executive order?
You know, this is now, Vlad, the second time that a rumor has been floated that President Trump would be signing a anti-LGBT executive order. That same rumor, as you mentioned, came by last February, and just yesterday, it was, according to media outlets, all but confirmed. And a lot of the panic and hysteria was focused exclusively on a single story that ran in Politico that cited two unnamed sources. And because of that, there was all this hubbub around the bill. I think it's important that maybe the media uses this as an opportunity to trust but verify their sources, because clearly there was some disconnect along the line. In addition to not signing an anti-LGBT executive order, the Trump administration, while briefing reporters late last night, was asked explicitly if there would be any further anti-LGBT potential executive orders coming down the pike, or if this executive order has a direct anti-LGBT impact. And to both of those questions, the administration answered no. I think this is a reason to praise President Trump instead of look at him with a suspicious eye or to outright condemn him, as so many others in the LGBT community and allies are doing tonight.
So let me get your reaction to what some critics say the order will specifically allow Attorney General Sessions to use the Justice Department to discriminate. The legal director of the Human Rights Campaign likened it to leaving what he called, quote, a fox in a henhouse. What is it that those critics are seeing in this order that you're not?
What those critics are seeing is the fact that they need to save face after they went overboard yesterday, conducting full-blown protests in front of the White House and branding Donald Trump anti-LGBT and saying that he was on the side of religious conservatives and did not have the backs of the LGBT community, that he was going to be defying the promise that he made during the campaign, a historic promise, I might add, that he would be a, quote, real friend to the LGBTQ community. What I would say is this. What I see in Donald Trump is someone who is, at times in a clumsy fashion, but nonetheless in an admirable fashion, trying to strike a balance between two polar opposites in politics today. Those fighting for LGBT equality and those fighting to maintain religious liberty. I think that we have to fight to strive for that balance, because if we don't, we're going to be stuck in eternal culture wars in the United States, and I don't think most of Americans, let alone me, have an appetite for that.
In the past, President Trump has said that he is very respectful and supportive of LGBTQ rights, but he has taken some measures that seemingly undermine their rights, such as undoing guidance protecting transgender students. What would you say to those folks who say that the president is doing so far, what the president is doing so far with regard to the LGBT community, and how would you, in the words that you're using, bring more members of the community in support of President Trump?
You know, Vlad, I'm really glad you asked that, especially on the transgender student guidance issue. You know, the Obama administration had put into place guidance for transgender students, which is admirable, but it was a one-size-fits-all requirement and a mandate from the federal government that, if not complied to, could potentially have taken away funds from public schools. I'm pleased to say, and we might be breaking some news here tonight on your show, that Log Cabin Republicans has been invited by the Department of Education to brief them on what our suggestions for replacement guidance might be. And I'm pleased to say that we've had transgender members who've been working diligently for the better part of the last month to come up with a myriad solutions that recognize the equality of transgender students, respect the safety of all students, and do not allow separate but equal status for transgender students. I'm really excited to be joining our transgender members on Tuesday to present that guidance. That doesn't really sound like the actions and the invitation of an administration that is anti-trans or anti-LGBT. I think that this administration is really trying to work, again, to balance these kind of two factions within the GOP and within politics in general. And I, for one, am optimistically cautious. I say optimistically cautious instead of cautiously optimistic because I'm more optimistic than cautious at this point.
Finally, President Trump's pick to be Secretary of the Army, Mark Green, reportedly called being transgender a, quote, disease. And in 2013, he blasted then President Obama, saying he, quote, supports transvestites in uniform. This person has been nominated by President Trump. Do you think that that legitimizes some of the concerns that have been voiced?
I think that Mr. Green has a lot to answer to, and the best way to find out where he stands on these issues is to give him the opportunity to acquit himself on them and to come before a hearing of the United States Senate and Congress and answer to these accusations directly and to promise unequivocally that if he were to become the Secretary of the Army, he would maintain all of the advances in LGBT freedom in the military that we have achieved. You should know this is an issue that's very close and important to log cabin Republicans, having fought for so many years and invested so much time, money, and resources in fighting to repeal the discriminatory Clinton-era policy of don't ask, don't tell, maintaining not only open service for gay and lesbian service members, but transgender service members, is something that we are very much fighting for and that we want to maintain. And we will be looking very closely at Mr. Green's answers should he receive the benefit of a hearing.
Gregory Angelo, president of the Log Cabin Republicans, thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Vlad.